Hey everyone, so this is Miss Murphy, and I'm going to be talking to you about government and the economy of Nigeria. So, first of all, the most important thing to know up front is what type of government Nigeria has, which the type of government Nigeria has is a presidential democracy where the citizen participation is democratic. So those are the two most important things. So it's very similar to what's here in the United States, where everyone can participate and everyone can vote. Now, I'm not sure if you remember this, but in a presidential system of government, the people vote for the president in a separate election from the legislature or the lawmaking body. Now, some of y'all pointed out when we were talking about independence and nationalism in Nigeria, we had mentioned it had been a parliamentary democracy. Yes, it was a parliamentary democracy, but due to issues with the government, such as military coups or civil wars, it changed to being a presidential democracy. So again, the most important thing to know about Nigeria's type of government is that it's a presidential democracy and that its citizen participation is democratic. So then the head of state and the head of government. So again, one of the most important things to know about the head of state and the head of government are these first two bullet points. First of all, since it's a presidential system of government, the head of the government and head of the state is going to be the president. And he or she, is elected directly by the people for a 4-year term. Again, this seems very similar to what's here in the United States. So already we can see some similarities between our current system of government and Nigeria's system of government. Right now, the name of Nigeria's president is President Major General Muhammadu Buhari. So again, two of the most important things to know about the head of state and head of government is their title is president and they're elected directly by the people for a 4-year term, just like here in the United States. So legislature, the law-making body, these are very important. And what's interesting is how similar Nigeria's current system of government is to the United States' system of government. So here in the United States, we have a Congress that's made up of 2 houses, and they're called the Senate and the House of Representatives. And if you look, Nigeria has a 2-house or bicameral Congress, just like in the United States, and they have the same exact title of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Everyone who is elected to their Congress or their Senate or their House of Representatives, they have 4-year terms, very similar to kind of how it's set up for the president. Now, just a reminder, when people in Nigeria vote for their legislature or their lawmaking body, it is separate from when they vote for the president, just like here in the United States. So what about voting rights? What about freedoms? So again, some of the most important things to know in regards to the voting rights and freedoms, the first 2 bullet points in particular, but also knowing this last bullet point. So the first 2 bullet points and then the last bullet point. So first of all, in Nigeria, any and all citizens over the age of 18 can vote. Sound familiar? That's almost identical to not even almost identical, that is identical to what we have going on here in the United States. Anyone over the age of 18 can and should vote. However, in a recent study over personal rights and freedoms, Nigeria is only considered partly free, where the United States is considered free. So why is this the case? When it's a presidential democracy, why is it it's only considered partly free? Well, first of all, in recent years, the Nigerian government has been criticized because currently one of the major problems that Nigeria is facing is a extremist militant group called Boko Haram, and they're responsible for kidnappings, murders. They were very well known for targeting women and kidnapping women who are trying to pursue a higher level of education or even trying to pursue any form of education at all. And something that was kind of a carryover from when the British were in power in Nigeria was the fact that there's limits and freedom of speech and freedom of press. Now, I'm not saying like, you can't say bad things, like false things about people. In general, there are restrictions on what you can say about the government, what negative things you can say about the government. So that's different than here in the United States. In the United States, you have the ability to not agree with what the government's doing. You have the right to not support what the government's doing. So we do have freedom of speech and freedom of press. Unfortunately, this is restricted in Nigeria due to a lot of the issues that have been going on in recent years. So something that you probably noticed when we're looking at environmental issues was if a government system is not stable or they're having a lot of problems that they're having to deal with, sometimes certain issues are prioritized and others are kind of put on the back burner. And again, this is a carryover that you're going to see is partially because of some problems that were unresolved from colonialism when Great Britain had taken over and colonized Nigeria. Remember with the preferential treatment between the southern Nigerians versus the northern Nigerians. And one of these cases was with disease. In regards to this, probably some of the most important things to know about this are the second and the third bullet points. But a struggle that is very prevalent, not only in Nigeria, but in other parts of Africa are HIV/AIDS. And one reason why it's such a big issue is because a lot of it stems from the Nigerian government not making it a priority. And it's not that they didn't care about the people who were getting ill from HIV/AIDS, but as you can see here, the Nigerian government had to deal with a lot of civil war, a lot of government corruption issues. And again, it all went back to people feeling like there was some carryover from colonialism and from Great Britain, where Great Britain was showing preferential treatment to the southern Nigerians versus the northern Nigerians. So they had to resolve that. And oftentimes when one thing becomes a priority over another thing, it causes issues. A lot of people noticed that one reason why HIV/AIDS was such a problem in Nigeria as well as in other places in Africa was people were not well informed and well educated about how to prevent the spread of disease or even how to protect themselves. So the government, now that they've realized, they have resources and ways to provide treatment, to educate people on how to prevent it, and just inform the people as a whole, it's getting better. Their priority is working to educate people and to make treatment available. But for a while, it was a major concern, and it's getting better. But again, you're going to see that this was the same case in other countries. When you're having to fix issues from colonialism where, there was preferential treatment, that kind of is the priority of making sure your country's at peace. And other issues sometimes spring up. So this shifts us over into the economic system. So some of you may be thinking, okay, well, since it's a democracy, then we can assume that it's going to be a market economy where businesses and people or consumers will have the say, that they will be the ones who are kind of driving what's in the economy and what's in the market. And you're right. So some of the main things to focus on with the economic systems is this first bullet point. It is a mixed, mostly market economy, but here's the key thing. It is transitioning, because for the longest time, prior to all the civil wars and prior to, Nigeria becoming a presidential democracy versus a parliamentary democracy, there was a lot of government control. So it used to be mixed, but mostly command, but now it's getting to be mixed, but mostly market due to these changes. Something that is interesting, though, is Nigeria has the largest